What are some small, unnoticed ways we as a society have made social progress in the last 2 decades?
My grandfather has been blind for 40 years and says people are way more friendly than they used to be, especially younger people are eager to help.
Infant mortality rate in Africa is now the same as it was in Europe in the 1970s. Absolutely amazing progress.
The rapid skill increase across all forms of gaming, sports, art, leisure activities, etc. The Internet really has allowed niche activity folks to learn the most effective practices collectively, as opposed to independent and unstructured learning. Hobbyists can, and are, now able to quickly get really good at nearly everything, at a ridiculous rate. Poker, paintball, video editing, computer games, etc. Doesn't matter what it is, it's easier now to jump from beginner to pretty good in nearly anything.
People pick up their dog poo more now. There are far more dogs now than 20 years ago and less poop on the pavement.
Giving more opportunities to people with disabilities.
Way fewer people smoke these days. Honestly, in my extended family it's maybe one of my distant cousins.
Talking about mental health more, even if it is out of necessity.
I feel like evolution of computers started getting so smooth that we don't notice it.
Way less smoking, especially indoors, and especially around children. Where I grew up, it was common to visit restaurants with smoking sections. 20 years ago, teachers would smoke in the teacher's lounge at school. 20 years ago, people would smoke indoors at work and it was just normal to have ashtrays in conference rooms and common areas.
We're normalizing openly discussing miscarriages. It used to be uncouth to discuss in social settings and was more something that couples had to suffer silently to themselves. After recently experiencing one, the outpouring of support has been amazing and such a pillar of support for us through this tough time. We were thankful to have others to mourn with us.
It seems to me that young people and kids today are far more accepting of differences, whether it's a disability, sexual orientation, being interested in a weird or non-gender conforming hobby, etc. than previous generations were.
Absolute poverty throughout the world has been halved from where it was at in the year 2000.
I think the majority of the world knows a lot more about other cultures and countries. Thanks to the internet and learning facilities and the vast possibilities of traveling, people can really get into these topics if they want to, and, unfortunately, have the money/possibilities too.
In my country, several efforts have been made to save our only remaining native indigenous language from being extinct. A decade ago, less than 1,000 people could speak it. Now I believe the number is closer to 10,000.
Trash goes in trash can.
You could easily argue that treatment of women has gotten a lot less beep since, but I'd also say that with it, men have gotten a better shake too. More men are increasingly involved in parenting. The stigma of taking parental leave has decreased. Dads are more involved in their kids' lives. Portrayals of masculinity have evolved to be more than one note. Guys are more allowed to show feelings, have friendships, and connect with people without it being dismissed as gay. So yeah, I think progress in positive masculinity is a huge thing.
Depending on where you are, but racial tolerance has been getting better. I mean, it's in no way perfect and there are still many ways it can be improved, but it has been getting better. I'm a visible minority and I've noticed things happening lately that seemed unlikely many years ago. Like interracial dating doesn't seem that big of a deal anymore. You even see a lot of commercials that feature interracial couples. Years ago when I'd meet someone outside my race, there was always waiting for that "we're getting along great, but I just can't see myself dating someone of your race." Now it almost feels like it's a non-issue.
Well, people don't grab pens and pencils out of kids' hands because they're lefties and then shout at them for not using their right side hands.
No smoking indoors, in North America at least. Was watching The Sopranos, a show from early 2000s, was shocked to see how many scenes involved people hacking darts inside.
Probably depends what society you're from, but casual homophobic language or jokes seem to have gone. Maybe that's because I'm not at school anymore. I did hear a few kids walking past my house the other day and one said to the other, "Why are you so bisexual?" which I thought was odd though.
Streets are cleaner, more healthy food is filling the shelves, people in general are more conscious of where the product they just bought came from and under what conditions it was made.
Smoking indoors is now an abomination. When I was a barman in 2004, the refrain I kept hearing from my regulars was, "It'll never happen. They can't ban smoking in pubs, they'll be empty." One of my very earliest memories as a 3-year-old is of my dad was of him smoking a cigarette in the living room. A few years later, he would fill the car with his smoke on long drives. I'm so glad so many millions fewer kids have to go through that. I hate to think of the damage I picked up over all that time.
We're simultaneously becoming more educated and learning to appreciate people with modest or untraditional educational backgrounds.
We don't hate gay people as much anymore.
Younger people seem to be much more accepting of those who are different because of things like autism and those with disabilities. Before, and I can vouch for this, when I was in school, these people were shunned and made fun of. While I am sure that still happens today, I don't think it's nearly as severe as what I witnessed when I went to school. We used to say retard and tard for every other word in school and no one thought anything of it, but you don't hear language like that these days. I heard a friend say it once, a person who lived in another country recently, and I was completely mortified at how it sounded, but we used to use it every other word in school. I don't know how the teachers tolerated it.
I'm into gunpla building. No one has ever made fun of me for it besides an ex-girlfriend. In fact, most people have actually found it quite interesting. My sister's boyfriends were right into it when I was working on one when they were visiting. 20 years ago, if I was into it, I would have been considered an outcast, and people who have avoided me solely because of the interest.
In 2001, video games were still a little nerdy. You did not talk about games around girls.
Man, I love this comment section. Is literally the kind of content I needed.
Some have observed that fewer and fewer people are driving drunk, thanks to a mix of ride-sharing apps and more of the younger generation thinking that it's irresponsible, inexcusable to drink and drive.
More gluten-free food, and better tasting too. I'm thankful that the US had a diet fad, cause if everyone hadn't been so obsessed with gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan whatever, I'd probably have to resign myself to not being able to eat comfortably.
Millions fewer are living in extreme poverty.
This thread has just made my week. I've been avoiding all news outlets because I honestly just could not handle more bad news, but some of these answers have honestly made me light up. Thanks, guys.
Environmental issues have gone from activism to being part of the general public conscience. At least, for the most part.
Vaccines access. The days are coming where vaccine-preventable disease will be eradicated from the face of the earth.
As an American, I do appreciate how much in the last few years a lot of the Native American symbolism in sports, mascots, college names, etc., is actually getting noticed, that Native Americans are not for our amusement or licensing purposes. They are actually real people with a real heritage that should not be exploited or commercialized. I also do appreciate how we are getting away from using the misnomer Indian to refer to them.
Wearing glasses has all but lost the negative stereotypes surrounding it, that often used to make kids suffer through school unable to see.
The type of clothing, colors of clothes men can wear these days. When I was in school, 97 graduate, if a guy wore pink he would get made fun of if not beaten up. Hell, if someone dressed up the same would happen. Growing your hair long was rebellious, haha.
I have noticed everyone in my store brings their own reusable bags now. It's so nice to reduce your impact in little ways and see everyone else doing it, too.
If something was lame 20 years ago, people would call it gay. I don't hear this much anymore. Granted, I'm no longer hanging with teenagers.
Men have more places to go to for domestic abuse and rape.
The newer generations seem to be more empathetic.
Less tolerance to child abuse.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.